let's get into some NBA talk, Rob. And we talked last week, I think it was, about, I've long felt like when the millennials and younger, but particularly millennials, when they are controlling the conversation, when they are the tastemakers, when they're in the seats that you and me and Michael Wilbon, Stephen A. Smith, that we're all in. I have long felt like LeBron will be recognized as the GOAT because they'll be driving that conversation, and that's what they will say. I don't think the older generation necessarily considers Jordan the GOAT, but our generation does. And so that's why I feel like that'll be the case. Now, we'll see if that happens. But the recent poll from the players where Jordan still was the GOAT in the players' eyes, but it was much closer than it's ever been, and that was because the younger guys were saying LeBron. And, Rob, that got me to thinking.
I'm going to say I disagree with that. I hear what you're saying about, because I don't think it's that arbitrary to just who's, when people start to do all the research and time goes on, LeBron is of the present mind now. And as time goes on, and you don't know who else is coming along, and then you really dive.
Wemby could make this whole thing moot.
Yeah, but you'll really dive into the careers, and you start to look. I don't know. LeBron could play 3 or 4 more years, not make the playoffs a couple years. Chris go out, kind of not as glorified as his career has been. Do you know what I mean? And people might look a little different. Is all I'm saying.
No, I think it's debatable. I mean, it's not guaranteed that the millennials are saying that, but I kind of think they will. And the numbers right now are backing that up from this latest poll. Because before, 3 years ago, it was like Jordan 70-something%, LeBron in the 20s. Then it was Jordan 59%, LeBron, maybe in the 30 percentile. And now it's like Jordan 47, 49, and LeBron 43. But so it's shrinking every year.
But here's a guy like Anthony Edwards, who didn't watch him play.
Well, we're going to get into him as that potential. Right now, he ain't in that discussion.
No.
I mean, not even like, he ain't even future in that discussion.
I'm not even talking about that.
I'm just saying, he ain't even future.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that he views, despite his age, he views Jordan as the GOAT. I think that's significant to me. Guys of his age.
One guy, but you're right. He does say that. That's a good point.
That's my point. That was my point.
The point I'm trying to get to is that, and this could be a big part of what you're saying, Rob, as to whether or not the younger generation, the millennials, do say this about LeBron. Jordan is mythical, which is somewhat unique for a guy that's still living. But he has become a mythical figure. And when I say mythical, Rob, I mean as great as the guy was, people view him as even greater. It's like Paul Bunyan or something like that. And I think, and let me know if you think there's someone else that meets this criteria. But I really feel like I can only think of 3 guys, and I'm not saying I've got everybody. When I think about the 3 major sports, the guys that I think of, Rob, as mythical.
I already know one, and that's baseball.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth, and he played 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah, like
Babe Ruth, Muhammad Ali, and Michael Jordan. There are others who are somewhat close. Kobe was somewhat mythical, maybe with Willie Mays somewhat, but those 3, I can't really think of anybody beyond those 3, Rob. And what I was going to throw out is, will LeBron ever be mythical? Now, you may think there's other players, that are, Wilt Chamberlain, when we were younger, was he?
He never was really, Chris, even when I was younger, you heard about him. He destroyed the record books, and they changed the way the rules to stop him because nobody could. And even still, then I don't think that, I don't think that he won enough. I don't think that he won enough where people really looked at him and said, "My God, he dominated. He would all this," and then he couldn't lose, or have some sort of feel like that. I think that's what hurts Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? To be so dominant and yet not win.
Yeah, when I was young, obviously you think of the 100 points that, and everybody's seen that photo, him holding up the 100. His numbers were obviously ridiculous. He's obviously iconic and legendary, but yeah, Mythical's a different thing. Like I said, I can only think of 3, Rob. Is there anyone else you might?
No, because I don't even think Tiger Woods falls into that. Because but I think that had he stayed on that path, Chris, I think that's what derailed him. He's a
good one. Yeah, I think the whole second half maybe of his career.
But the way
totally
he won to start was unbelievable.
No,
like nothing you ever saw. Like it was out of this world.
So I wonder with LeBron. He's obviously, I think he's iconic and legendary, clearly. But I don't know if he'll be mythical. I just, like the stories precede you. They get overblown. Jordan never would have missed that shot. Jordan made every last second shot. Ali is the greatest. And maybe, but Ali also lost, I think, 5 fights. And
but there was something about him, yeah.
Right, but I'm saying that, and I'm not saying they aren't the greatest. Obviously, right. I think Jordan is. I love Ali. Babe Ruth, I don't think is the greatest baseball player, but he's certainly in the conversation.
But he's right. He's in there when you, even after all these years.
Oh yeah,
it's hard to not have a great conversation and not include him. And there's a lot of reasons to exclude him, Chris, and it's still hard to exclude him.
Because he's mythical.
Right.
And these are like Paul Bunyan figures. I wonder even if Steph, who is not mythical right now, will be iconic, legendary. I wonder if he might have a better chance of being that than LeBron. Not that he's better, because he's not, but because of the way he changed the game, Rob. Like, he did change the game. It's totally different now. It was because
that could
of
happen.
him.
And here's the other thing. He's won as much as LeBron. Like when you start to look at it, and I'm not saying that they're on par, but I'm just talking about when people look back at careers. Steph won 4 championships. Oh, he did this, he did that. Everybody starts shooting threes, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I think he does have an outside shot at being more mythical than LeBron. I do, Steph.
Well, and I think also, Rob, the pedigree that he came from, which was not, he was a lottery pick, but he was not expected to be this. You know what I mean? And I think that could help him maybe being one of the very few small players that dominated the NBA. He did beat LeBron 3 times. When people look back, Rob, one of the reasons people tend to put Russell, I know Russell had 11 rings, Wilt only had 2, but Russell always prevailed for the most part against Wilt, even though Wilt would have better individual numbers, Russell would end up winning. So I don't know. It's an interesting discussion, and I do think that can kind of play into the GOAT discussion, Rob, because if the guy you're being compared to is mythical, and Rob, I don't think it's any doubt that Jordan's mythical. When my daughters, who obviously never saw him play, don't even watch basketball, really couldn't care less about it for the most part, when they're wearing Jordans, asking me to buy them Jordans for Christmas,
right?
That's mythical.
No, that puts you on a different level. It does. There's a different level to it, and that's what Mike has. There was just something different about that guy at that time, and I do believe that. Like to take an icon, to take a sneaker, and you know how many guys have sneakers, Chris, and LeBron has his sneakers and all that, and it's not the same.
No.
Steph Curry had the not New Balance, had the
Under Armour.
Under Armour that looked like nurses' shoes. You remember the first ones that came out?
Year.
No, the first ones. like, dude, I
thought they were all right.
Chris, they look like nurses' shoes. You know they did.
Well, the 1 year.
The first year. No, I'm saying that.
I don't know if that was the first one, but because the first ones I thought came out were pretty fresh. I had like a red pair.
But the ones that look like,
one of the versions did. But I think, Rob, what it was, I don't even think it's a mystery. What it was about Jordan was his game was so graceful. Because, Rob, he was reaching legendary status and obviously the dominance individually, but he reached legendary status before he won. Before he won, he had the come fly with me videos. Before he won, the sneakers were, flying off the shelves and people were lined up for hours, when they knew the sneakers were coming up outside of Foot Locker.
It was like getting a cabbage.
That's before he won.
A Cabbage Patch doll, Chris.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, and so, Rob, his statue, and I get it, it's in Chicago, but people were saying this outside of Chicago. When he retired the first time, he only had 3 rings. That statue says the greatest there was, the greatest there ever will be.
And there was only 3.
And nobody had an issue with it.
Yep.
I mean, so he was being called that routinely before he even had 4 rings. And I think a lot of it, he was like Dr. J, but it was like on another level. He obviously put up numbers beyond Dr. J. And then when he started winning, it just was, and winning like every year, it just became crazy. And so I think, Rob, even subconsciously, I think that is a factor that works in his favor in the GOAT debate with LeBron. LeBron's game doesn't look as good as Jordan.
No, I agree with that.
I think that's a factor.
Run over people.
Right.
Bully ball.
And he's got skills, obviously.
No, right. He does,
passer,
but
it's not like Jordan.
Right.